This is Grandmummy's reading of The Golden Goose, a Grimm's fairy tale, copyright prior to 1968. The page was destroyed, so I don't know what the copyright is. This is being read for Lillian et al. On Friday, April 13th, 2012, 4:30 p.m. That's right now. Almost. It's 4:24. I lied. This is being read for Easter a few days ago on Sunday, April 8th. And it's a little bit late. We missed the deadline. It was due Sunday by midnight, and we missed the deadline. We're all going to die. This is an onion skin production in Lakewood, Ohio, USA, which is a suburb of Cleveland and, Cleveland, Ohio. My name is Inta Mitterbach. I'm also known as Gummy. This is the cover of the book, Lillian. Do you remember? This is the same cover, the same book on the last story that I read to you. It's the Grimm's fairy tale book. And this is the story, The Golden Goose. There once was a man who had 3 sons, the youngest of whom was called Simpleton. He was scorned and despised by the others and kept in the background. The eldest son was going into the forest to cut wood, and before he started, his mother gave him a nice sweet cake and a bottle of wine to take with him, so that he might not suffer from hunger or thirst. In the wood he met a little old gray man who bade him good day and said, "Give me a bit of the cake in your pocket and leave me a drop of your wine. I am so hungry and thirsty." But the clever son said, "If I give you my cake and wine, I shan't have enough for myself. Be off with you." He left the little man standing there and went on his way, but he had not been long at work cutting down a tree before he made a false stroke. He dug the axe into his own arm, and he was obliged to go home to have it bound. Now this was no accident. It was brought about by the little gray man. The second son now had to go into the forest to cut wood, and like the eldest, his mother gave him a sweet cake and a bottle of wine. In the same way, the little gray man met him and asked for a piece of his cake and a drop of his wine. But the second son made the same sensible answer. "If I give you any, I shall have the less for myself. Be off and out of my way." And he went on. His punishment, however, was not long delayed. After a few blows at the tree, he hit his own leg and had to be carried home. Then Simpleton said, "Let me go to cut the wood, father." But his father said, "Your brothers have only come to harm by it. You had better leave it alone. You know nothing about it." But Simpleton begged so hard to be allowed to go that at last his father said, "Well, off you go then. You will be wiser when you have hurt yourself." His mother gave him a cake which was mixed only with water and baked in the ashes, and a bottle of sour beer. When he reached the forest like the others, he met the little gray man. "Give me a bit of the cake in your pocket and a drop of your wine. I am so hungry and thirsty," said the little man. Simpleton answered, "I only have a cake baked in the ashes and some sour beer. But if you like such fare, we will sit down and eat it together." So they sat down, but when Simpleton pulled out his cake, it was a nice sweet cake, and his sour beer was turned into good wine. So they ate and drank, and the little man said, "As you have such a good heart and are willing to share your goods, I will give you good luck." there stands an old tree. Cut it down and you will find something at the roots." So saying, he disappeared without giving Simpleton any further directions. Simpleton cut down the tree, and when it fell, lo and behold, a goose was sitting among the roots, and its feathers were pure gold. He picked it up and took it with him to an inn where he meant to stay the night. The landlord had 3 daughters who saw the goose and were very curious as to what kind of bird it could be, and wanted to get one of its golden feathers. The eldest thought, "There will soon be some opportunity for me to pull out one of the feathers," and when Simpleton went outside, she took hold of its wing to pluck out a feather, but her hand stuck fast and she could not get away. Soon afterwards, the second sister came up, meaning also to pluck out one of the golden feathers, but she had hardly touched her sister when she herself was held fast. Finally, the third one came with the same intention, but the others screamed out, "Keep away, for goodness sake, keep away!" But she, not knowing why she was to keep away, thought, "Why should I not be there if they are there?" So she ran up. But as soon as she touched her sisters, she had to stay hanging on to them, and they all had to pass the night like this. In the morning, Simpleton took up the goose under his arm without noticing that the 3 girls hanging on behind. They had to keep running behind, dodging his legs right and left. In the middle of the fields they met the parson, who, when he saw the procession, cried out, "For shame, you bold girls! Why do you run after the lad like that? Do you call that proper behavior?" Then he took hold of the hand of the youngest girl to pull her away, but no sooner had he touched her than he felt himself held fast, and he too had to run behind. Soon afterwards the sexton came up, and seeing his master, the parson, treading on the heels of the 3 girls, cried out in amazement, "Hello, your reverence! Where are you going so fast? Don't forget that we have a christening." So saying, he plucked the parson by the sleeve and soon found that he could not get away. As this party of 5, one behind the other, tramped on, 2 peasants came along the road, carrying their hoes. The parson called them and asked them to set the sexton and himself free, but as soon as ever they touched the sexton, they were held fast. So now there were 7 people running behind Simpleton and his goose. By and by they reached a town where a king ruled, whose only daughter was so solemn that nothing and nobody could make her laugh. So the king had proclaimed that whoever could make her laugh should marry her. When Simpleton heard this, he took his goose with all his following before her, and when she saw these 7 people running, one behind another, she burst into fits of laughter and seemed as if she would never stop. Thereupon Simpleton asked her in marriage, but the king did not like him for a son-in-law and made all sorts of conditions. First, he said Simpleton must bring him a man who could drink up a cellar full of wine. Then Simpleton at once thought of the little gray man who might be able to help him, and he went out to the forest to look for him on the very spot where the tree that he had cut down had stood. He saw a man sitting with a very sad face. Simpleton asked him what was the matter, and he answered, "I am so thirsty, and I can't quench my thirst. I hate cold water, and I have already emptied a cask of wine. But what is a drop like that on a burning stone?" "Well, there I can help you," said Simpleton. "Come with me, and you shall soon have enough to drink and to spare." He led him to the king's cellar, and the man started upon the great casks. And he drank and drank till his sides ached, and by the end of the day the cellar was empty. Then again Simpleton demanded his bride, but the king was annoyed that a wretched fellow called Simpleton should have his daughter, and he made new conditions. He was now to find a man who could eat up a mountain of bread. Simpleton did not reflect long, but went straight to the forest. And there, in the self-same place, sat a man tightening a strap round his body and making a very miserable face. He said, "I have eaten up a whole ovenful of rolls, but what is the good of that when anyone is as hungry as I am? I am never satisfied. I have to tighten my belt every day if I am not to die of hunger." Simpleton was delighted and said, "Get up and come with me. You shall have enough to eat." And he took him to the court, where the king had caused all the flour in the kingdom to be brought together and a huge mountain of bread to be baked. The man from the forest sat down before it and began to eat, and at the end of the day the whole mountain had disappeared. Now for the third time Simpleton asked for his bride, but again the king tried to find an excuse and demanded a ship which could sail on land as well as at sea. "As soon as you sail up in it, you shall have my daughter," he said. Simpleton went straight to the forest, and there sat the little gray man, to whom he had given his cake. The little man said, "I have eaten and drunk for you, and now I will give you the ship too. I do it all because you were merciful to me." Then he gave him the ship, which could sail on land as well as at sea, and when the king saw it, he could no longer withhold his daughter. The marriage was celebrated, and at the king's death, Simpleton inherited the kingdom and lived long and happily with his wife. And that is the end of the Golden Goose and Grandmummy's reading of A Grimm's Fairy Tale, The Golden Goose. So, that was an Onion Skin production, Lillian. This is a picture of my Holy Bible. I was going to talk to you about that on Easter. It has 2 books in it, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Jesus teaches about the New Testament, or actually the New Testament was written about Jesus and what he had to say. This is a picture of the New Testament page, the beginning of that whole part of the book. This is the beginning, the first book, St. Matthew. This is my dictionary of religion. There are religions all over the world, not just Christianity with Jesus and God, but many other religions. And they have celebrations and holidays too. This is the copyright page. That's one of my religions. I believe in the Library of Congress. And this is a page that's in my dictionary of religion, and I was going to tell you what it says about Easter, the central feast of Christianity, celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the tomb on the 3rd day after his crucifixion. Until the 6th century, both Western and Eastern churches celebrated a night vigil before Easter Sunday, at which converts were received in the church by baptism. Today's popular customs of Easter eggs, rabbits, new clothes, The use of flowers reflect lingering pre-Christian customs celebrating the coming of spring. The English word Easter seems to derive from Estur, the name of the Anglo-Saxon goddess of spring. This is a copy of the cover of my mission yearbook. It has pages for each day of the year and talks about the missionaries all over the world spreading Christianity to people. And these are some pictures of my garden from Easter weekend. I thought you might like to look at them. That's a tulip. Those are dandelions. Those are weeds, but they're beautiful, aren't they? They're beautiful yellow flowers. And those are purple grape hyacinths. There's another tulip. More purple grape hyacinths. Daffodils. Those are Easter hyacinths. That's just some of my garden. And those are the royal peonies that will come into bloom soon. Those are the buds. And these are the other peonies. I told them the wrong thing on one of my other videos, and I said those were the royal peonies, but they aren't. Those are regular peonies. And those are the fuzzy green leaves of a poppy. The poppies come out and they're bright orange. And that is a rosebud tree. And there's a lilac, a white lilac tree. And there's a purple lilac. Those lilacs smell beautiful and sweet. And there's another pink Easter hyacinth. And that's a picture of my yard with a little rose bush right there. There's the garden. Is that the secret garden? And what are those? I don't know. Those might be weeds, but they're pretty, aren't they? I think it makes a lovely photograph. That's a little bit closer. I don't know. Maybe that's a leaf from a grapevine. I'm not sure. I don't think so, but it's a possibility. And there's the street to the east and the street to the west, looking at the sky and the clouds. And the street to the south, and there's Cleveland. And there's the lighthouse. On the lake, that's Lake Erie, and on the other side of the lake is Canada. And you know what? The Queen of England also has business in Canada. I think actually Canada might be part of the United Kingdom, sort of. And there's another picture of the lake. That's Lake Erie. You know, I'm sorry, Lillian, I don't know my geography very well for a geographer. I don't know anything about Canada and the government of Canada. And do you know what? There are 197 countries and territories around the world, and each one of them has its own government. And within each government, there are sub-governments. And there's Cleveland again. And there's the fish. That's Merino to the left. He used to have a black stripe on his back, but now he has a white tummy. I don't know if that's a different fish or if he's changed. And the one on the right, who is that? Solomon. That's Solomon. And there are islands in the Pacific called the Merino and the Solomon Islands. I love you. Have a great day. And be good. Goodbye.